March 8, 4:12 a.m., FBI and DEA tactical units converged on a Silicon Valley logistics hub. Automated gates disengaged under remote command. Cameras froze mid-frame. Interior lights activated briefly, then cut entirely. Teams moved silently through loading docks, bypassing standard access controls. Inside, servers hummed with encrypted routing logs. Pallets were stacked in systematic arrays, some labeled as technology hardware, others blank. 19 executives were detained without incident, still seated at operational consoles. Each workstation contained real-time routing encryption, mapping supply chains invisible to conventional monitoring. Investigators would later conclude the hub was not merely a warehouse. It was a command node, and the operation exposed a sophisticated network capable of concealing movement across multiple states. The operation began not with the raid itself, but months earlier through a combination of financial anomaly detection and digital intelligence. Federal analysts observed irregular cash movements between nominal corporate accounts and offshore entities tied to logistics companies operating in Silicon Valley. DEA analysts noted suspicious shipments labeled as hardware components that consistently bypassed standard inspection protocols. Shipping manifests indicated high-value freight moving along encrypted routing systems that obscured end destinations. Investigators would later conclude that these anomalies suggested a coordinated network designed to conceal the flow of high-value or illicit materials across state lines. Simultaneously, field surveillance documented vehicular and personnel patterns around the hub. Repeated nighttime activity, synchronized vehicle entries and exits, and temporary storage containers indicated operational cycles inconsistent with legitimate supply chain practices. Cross-referencing digital and physical intelligence allowed investigators to map potential nodes in the network. Analysts identified 19 individuals occupying executive-level positions within the hub, each appearing responsible for discrete segments of the distribution network, from logistics planning to routing encryption oversight. Interagency coordination determined that a simultaneous intervention across multiple points was required. Analysts concluded that delaying action could allow rerouting, data wiping, or physical relocation of high-value cargo. Sealed warrants were obtained, and tactical planning incorporated breach sequences, containment protocols for executive personnel, and digital forensics preparation. Investigators would later describe this initial intelligence alignment as the most critical component in neutralizing operational resilience before physical entry. At 4:12 a.m. on March 8th, FBI and DEA tactical units converged on the logistics hub. Automated gates disengaged under remote command, and interior cameras froze mid-frame. Teams proceeded through side access points, bypassing biometric locks designed to prevent unauthorized entry. Inside, analysts observed operational systems active on multiple consoles. Pallets of freight were stacked in systematic arrays, some labeled as standard technology hardware, others left unmarked. The hub's layout suggested efficiency optimization for rapid shipment and concealment of high-value goods. 19 executives were detained without incident. Each was seated at operational stations containing live, encrypted routing data. Investigators noted that the encryption masked both shipment origins and intended destinations, rendering conventional tracking ineffective. Immediate data capture focused on server imaging and network isolation to prevent remote deletion or rerouting. Tactical teams secured physical logs, storage devices, and shipping manifests. Preliminary observation revealed that the hub functioned less as a warehouse and more as a command node, coordinating distributed operations across multiple states. Investigators would later conclude that controlling the executive nodes simultaneously prevented the network from activating contingency rerouting or data destruction protocols. Initial intelligence assessment indicated that the hub's design allowed continuity of operations even if individual employees were removed, highlighting systemic operational resilience. Recovered server logs and preliminary decryption revealed a highly sophisticated routing system. Shipments were assigned encrypted paths that obscured both physical and digital tracking. Packages moved through multi-state corridors, often rerouted through intermediary logistics providers to prevent pattern recognition. Analysts mapped the network across Northern California, Nevada, and Texas. Temporal patterns suggested recurring shipment windows, each coordinated to exploit gaps in routine inspection or surveillance. Investigators concluded that the encryption architecture created functional opacity, allowing high-value or illicit items to move without detection. Routing encryption included dynamic path reassignment, randomized scheduling, and multi-tiered shipment verification. Analysts noted that, while legal products could move through the network undisturbed, the same system could be utilized for illicit cargo with minimal risk. Investigators reconstructed communication protocols between executive nodes. Messages were encrypted, timestamped, and routed through off-site cloud servers. Analysts would later assess that the system's design minimized operational exposure by compartmentalizing knowledge. No single executive had full awareness of the entire network. Network mapping revealed multiple contingency routes, redundant nodes, and rapid reallocation capability, indicating a deliberate strategy to maintain continuous distribution even under federal interdiction pressure. Investigators focused on the 19 executives detained during the raid. Each appeared responsible for a distinct operational segment, including logistics planning, encryption management, shipment scheduling, and inter-company coordination. Investigators would later conclude that the network's operational resilience relied heavily on this distributed leadership structure. Analysis of internal communication, server access logs, and workflow diagrams indicated that operational decisions were routed through encrypted digital protocols. Executives were insulated from direct contact with high-value assets, ensuring minimal exposure in case of interdiction. Analysts noted a clear hierarchy. Senior executives issued encrypted directives, while mid-level managers executed operational tasks without comprehensive network visibility. Investigators documented repeated use of dual-layer security measures. Digital access to shipment data required multi-factor authentication tied to biometric verification and rotating encryption keys. Physical access to storage areas relied on dual-entry systems and temporary override codes, accessible only to select personnel. Systemic vulnerabilities exploited by the network included gaps in oversight between logistics providers and federal inspection agencies. By integrating multiple transport companies, both legal and nominal, the hub masked distribution patterns. Investigators concluded that federal monitoring systems, while robust, lacked the cross-jurisdictional integration necessary to detect cumulative operational activity. Analysis of shipment manifests revealed deliberate structuring. High-value items were dispersed across multiple shipments, routed through nominal third-party companies, and recombined at final destinations. Investigators would later assess that this method ensured operational continuity and reduced detection risk. Digital forensics showed evidence of automated route reassignment in response to potential interdiction signals. Executives maintained operational oversight without direct intervention, utilizing encrypted dashboards that provided only essential data to manage day-to-day activity. The investigation highlighted both operational sophistication and structural weaknesses within federal monitoring and inspection systems. Investigators concluded that while individual elements of the hub's activity might comply with legal requirements, the aggregate operational architecture enabled concealed movement across state lines, creating an exposure risk not readily detectable under conventional oversight. Secondary inspections revealed concealed server nodes, encrypted storage drives, and isolated network segments. Analysts recovered shipment logs and ledger files detailing both legal and potentially illicit distribution cycles. Patterns indicated contingency planning for asset relocation and rapid network reactivation in case of interdiction. Investigators also identified encrypted communications with off-site servers and temporary cloud nodes, confirming layered operational security. Recovered documentation suggested the hub coordinated with regional partners to optimize coverage and minimize vulnerability. Analysts concluded that these secondary findings reflected deliberate operational planning to maintain continuity under federal oversight and reinforce the network's resilience. Following the raid, DEA and FBI established a joint task force to monitor residual network activity, evaluate systemic vulnerabilities, and prevent asset reconstruction. Interagency coordination was expanded to include state-level law enforcement and cybersecurity teams. Policy discussions focused on enhancing digital monitoring, improving cross-jurisdictional oversight, and developing rapid response protocols for encrypted logistics networks. Analysts emphasize that operations like the Silicon Valley Hub expose gaps in conventional inspection systems, underscoring the need for integrated surveillance and intelligence fusion. Investigators concluded that the raid did not merely neutralize a single hub, but revealed systemic operational sophistication and potential national distribution capabilities, providing actionable intelligence for federal enforcement and policy adaptation.